The distress signal came at 0300 hours, when most of the crew aboard the Horizon's Edge were asleep. The message was broken and filled with static, but the fear in it was clear. Someone was dying, and they were begging for help. Commander Daniel Harris sat in his cabin when the alert reached him. He was a man of 52 years, with gray in his hair and scars on his hands from wars he tried to forget. He had left the military 10 years ago, tired of fighting. Now he commanded a relief ship, bringing medicine and food to colonies in need. It was quieter work. It let him sleep at night, but tonight, sleep would not come. He walked to the bridge and found Lieutenant Lisa Grant already at her station. She was young, only 28, but she had sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She looked up when he entered. "Sir, you need to hear this," she said. She played the message. The voice was high and musical, like wind through glass. It belonged to a Valari, one of the gentle species from the outer territories. They were known for their crystal cities and beautiful songs. They had no army. They had no weapons. They had never needed them, until now. "Please," the voice said through the static. "They are killing us. The Krath have come. Our cities burn. Our children die. We beg anyone who hears this. Please help us, please." The message repeated over and over, a loop of desperation. Harris stood in silence for a long moment. He knew the Valari. He had visited their world once, years ago. He remembered the way sunlight passed through their crystal towers, filling the air with rainbows. He remembered how they had welcomed him with songs. "Have they received any response?" he asked. Grant shook her head. "I checked the Galactic Council channels. They declared the Valari system part of the Krath expansion zone. They said it is an internal matter and they will not interfere." Harris felt something cold settle in his chest. The Krath Dominion was a brutal empire. They did not conquer worlds. They harvested them. They took the people as slaves and stripped the planets bare. Everyone knew this. And everyone looked away. "What about other ships in the area?" Harris asked. 3 merchant vessels changed course away from the system. A Tarani patrol ship reported the signal and continued on its route. Grant paused. "No one is going, sir." Harris looked at the star map on the screen. The Valari homeworld was 4 hours away at maximum speed. His ship carried medical supplies, food, and a crew of 47. They had a small security team of 8 soldiers and weapons meant for defense, not attack. The Krath had warships, thousands of soldiers, and technology far beyond what the Horizon's Edge could match. Going there was suicide. "Wake the senior staff," Harris said. "I want everyone in the meeting room in 10 minutes. Grant hesitated. "Sir, are you thinking of responding?" Harris looked at her. "I am thinking that someone should." The meeting was short. Dr. Kevin Park, the ship's medical officer, listened to the message with a pale face. He was a quiet man who had spent 20 years treating the wounded and the sick. He had seen what happened to people caught in wars. How many survivors could we realistically help? He asked. "Unknown," Grant replied. The Valari population was around 2 million. If the attack is as bad as the message suggests, casualties could be in the hundreds of thousands. Sergeant Marcus Cole leaned forward. He was the head of the security team, a big man with calm eyes and steady hands. "Commander, I have to be honest. My team is good, but we are 8 people. If we go down there and the Krath find us, we will not last long." Harris nodded. "I know. Then why are we discussing this?" asked Amy Chun, the ship's engineer. She was small and practical, the kind of person who solved problems with numbers and logic. "The math does not work. We cannot fight them. We cannot save everyone. We will probably die trying." "You are right," Harris said. "The math does not work. But I am not asking you to do math. I am asking you to make a choice." He stood and looked at each of them in turn. "I spent 15 years in the military. I followed orders. I did what I was told. And I watched good people die because someone decided they were not worth saving. I told myself it was not my fault. I told myself there was nothing I could do." He paused. "I was wrong. There was always something I could do. I could try." The room was silent. "The Valari are dying tonight." They sent a message into the darkness, hoping someone would hear. Someone did. We did. Harris placed his hands on the table. "I am not ordering anyone to come with me. This is a volunteer mission. If you want to stay behind, I will not blame you. But I am going." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Marcus Cole stood up. "I did not join this crew to watch people die from a safe distance. I am with you." Lisa Grant nodded. "Someone has to fly this ship. Might as well be me." Kevin Park took a deep breath. "You will need a doctor." "I am coming." One by one, every person in the room made the same choice. When it was done, Harris looked at them with something like pride. "Thank you," he said. "All of you." Amy Chun was the last to speak. She shook her head slowly, but there was a small smile on her face. "The math still does not work, Commander." Harris smiled back. "Then we will have to change the math." 20 minutes later, the Horizon's Edge turned toward the Valari homeworld and jumped into hyperspace. Behind them, the galaxy continued as it always had, with its politics and its treaties and its careful neutrality. Ahead of them, a world burned, and someone was screaming for help. The humans were coming. The Horizon's Edge dropped out of hyperspace behind the largest moon of Valari Prime. "Commander," Harris had ordered all external lights shut off and all non-essential systems powered down. In the darkness of space, the ship drifted like a ghost, silent and nearly invisible. Through the viewport, they could see the planet dot it was burning. Great columns of smoke rose from the surface, visible even from orbit. The crystal cities that had once caught the sunlight and turned it into rainbows were now dark and broken. Fires spread across the continents like wounds that would not heal. 3 Krath warships in orbit, Lieutenant Grant reported, her voice tight. "I am also detecting multiple landing craft on the surface. They have ground forces in the capital city." Harris studied the tactical display. The Krath ships were large and heavily armed, each one capable of destroying the Horizon's Edge in seconds. They moved in a slow patrol pattern around the planet, watching for any ship foolish enough to interfere. "Can we get past them?" Harris asked. Grant worked a console for a moment. "There is a gap in their patrol pattern. It lasts 8 minutes. If we time it right, we can use the planet's atmosphere to hide our approach. But it will be rough. We will have to go in fast and hot." "Do it." The next hour was tense. They waited behind the moon, watching the Krath ships move in their endless circle. Dr. Park prepared the medical bay for mass casualties. Sergeant Cole gathered his team and checked their weapons. Amy Chun ran final diagnostics on the engines, making sure they could handle the stress of a combat drop. When the gap in the patrol appeared, Grant did not hesitate. She pushed the engines to maximum and sent the Horizon's Edge, diving toward the planet's atmosphere. The entry was violent. The ship shook and rattled as it hit the upper atmosphere at high speed. Warning alarms screamed. The hull temperature climbed toward dangerous levels. Outside the viewports, fire surrounded them, a cocoon of heat and light as they fell toward the surface. Then they were through. The Horizon's Edge leveled out above the ruined capital city. Smoke was everywhere, thick and black, rising from buildings that had stood for thousands of years. The streets below were filled with debris and bodies. Harris saw Valari running through the chaos, their delicate forms moving like shadows through the destruction. "Find us a place to land," Harris ordered. Grant brought them down in a plaza near the center of the city. The stone beneath them was cracked and scorched. Around them, the ruins of crystal towers stood like broken teeth against the smoke-filled sky. I am detecting life signs in the surrounding buildings, Grant said. Hundreds of them. They are hiding. Harris turned to Marcus Cole. Take your team out first. Let them see we are not a threat. Cole nodded and gathered his soldiers. They moved to the cargo bay doors, weapons ready but pointed at the ground. When the doors opened, the smell of smoke and death rushed in. Cole stepped out into the ruins. The air was hot and hard to breathe. Through the haze, he could see shapes moving in the rubble, watching him with wide, frightened eyes. The Valari were smaller than humans, with pale skin that seemed to glow faintly and large eyes that reflected light like mirrors. We are here to help, Cole called out. We mean you no harm. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a small figure emerged from behind a fallen pillar. It was a child, a young Valari girl with dust in her hair and terror on her face. She looked at Cole with those mirror-bright eyes, trembling. Cole slowly knelt down, making himself smaller. He placed his weapon on the ground and held out his empty hands. It is okay, he said softly. You are safe now. The child stared at him. Then, slowly, she took a step forward. That was when the others began to emerge. First one, then 10, then dozens. They came out of the rubble and the ruins, hundreds of Valari who had been hiding from the Krath. They looked at the humans with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. An older Valari pushed through the crowd. His robes were torn and stained with blood, but he carried himself with dignity. He stopped in front of Cole and studied him carefully. I am Elder Soneth, he said. His voice was like the message they had received, musical and sad. You are the ones who answered our call. We are, Cole replied. We have a ship. We have medical supplies. We are here to help. Soneth closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were wet with tears. We sent that message into the void, hoping someone would hear. The council abandoned us. The other species turned away. We thought we were alone. He reached out and placed a thin hand on Cole's arm. But you came. You came. Behind them, the cargo doors opened wider. Dr. Park and his medical team rushed out, carrying supplies. They began treating the wounded immediately. Moving through the crowd with calm efficiency, Commander Harris walked down the ramp and stood beside Cole. He looked at the destruction around them, at the broken city and the frightened people, and he felt a cold anger settle in his heart. We need to move fast, he said. The Krath will notice we are here soon. Elder Soneth nodded. There are more survivors in the underground tunnels beneath the city. Thousands more. Can you help them? Harris looked at his small crew, then at the endless ruins stretching in every direction. The task seemed impossible. Yes, he said. We will help them all. In the distance, a Krath patrol ship passed overhead, its searchlights cutting through the smoke. The clock was ticking. The Krath found them 2 hours after landing. Commander, Harris was helping load wounded Valari onto the ship when the alarm came. Lieutenant Grant's voice crackled over the radio, sharp with urgency. Commander, I am detecting Krath ground forces moving toward our position. Approximately 60 soldiers. They will be here in 15 minutes. Harris looked around the plaza. There were still over 100 Valari waiting to board, many of them injured and unable to move quickly. The ship could hold them all, but they needed time. Time they did not have. How long until we can lift off? He asked. The engines need another 30 minutes to cool down from the atmospheric entry, Amy Chun replied. If we push them now, they might fail. And then we go nowhere. 30 minutes. The Krath would be here in 15. Sergeant Cole appeared at Harris's side. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. I have an idea, Cole said. My team can buy you time. How? The smoke. Cole pointed at the thick clouds rising from the burning buildings. It covers everything. The Krath have better weapons and more soldiers, but they cannot see through smoke any better than we can. We go out there, hit them fast, and disappear before they can react. Keep them confused. Keep them chasing shadows. Harris shook his head. That is 8 of you against 60. You will be killed. Maybe, Cole admitted. But if we do nothing, everyone here dies. The Valari. The crew one, everyone. He met Harris's eyes. This is what we trained for, Commander. Let us do our job. Harris wanted to argue. He wanted to find another way. But he looked at the wounded Valari being carried onto his ship, at the children holding on to their parents, at Elder Sonath standing quietly among his people. There was no other way. Go, he said. But you come back. That is an order. Cole smiled slightly. Yes, sir. 5 minutes later, Cole and his 7 soldiers vanished into the smoke. The Krath advanced in a tight formation, their weapons raised and ready. They were tall creatures, covered in thick gray scales and protected by heavy armor. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness, designed to see heat signatures through obstacles. They had conquered 100 worlds and never lost a battle. They had never fought humans before. The first Krath soldier fell without warning. One moment he was marching with his squad. The next, something hit him from the side and he was down, his weapon gone. By the time his companions turned to look, the attacker had vanished. Contact? The Krath commander shouted. Spread out and find them. The soldiers obeyed, moving into the ruins. But the smoke was everywhere, thick and choking, turning the world into a maze of gray shadows. They could see nothing more than a few meters ahead. A second soldier fell, then a third. Each time, the attack came from a different direction. Each time, the attacker was gone before anyone could respond. Cole moved through the smoke like a ghost. He had grown up in a small town surrounded by forests, hunting deer with his father before the sun rose. He knew how to be silent. He knew how to wait. He knew how to strike and disappear. His team did the same. They used the ruins for cover, climbing through broken windows and crawling through rubble. They attacked from behind, from above, from angles the Krath never expected. They did not try to kill every soldier. They just needed to slow them down, confuse them, make them afraid. And it was working. The Krath formation broke apart. Soldiers began shooting at shadows, at nothing, at each other. Their discipline crumbled under the pressure of an enemy they could not see and could not understand. What are these creatures? One soldier screamed into his radio. They are everywhere. Back at the plaza, Harris listened to the distant sounds of battle. Gunfire echoed through the smoke. Shouts and screams mixed with the crackling of flames. He forced himself to focus on the evacuation, directing the crew as they helped the last of the Valari onto the ship. Engines are ready, Amy Chun reported. We can lift off in 5 minutes. Cole, what is your status? Harris called over the radio. There was a long pause. Then Cole's voice came through, strained but steady. We have them pinned down for now, but they are calling for backup. You need to go, Commander. Get those people out of here. Not without you. Sir, that is not negotiable, Sergeant. Fall back to the ship. Now. Another pause. Then, copy that. We are coming. The next few minutes were the longest of Harris's life. He stood at the cargo door, watching the smoke, waiting. One by one, his soldiers emerged from the haze. They were battered and bloody, but they were alive. Cole was the last to appear. He was carrying something in his arms. As he got closer, Harris saw it was a child, the same young Valari girl who had first approached them in the plaza. Found her hiding in the rubble, Cole said, breathing hard. almost ran right into a Krath patrol. Harris took the child from him. She was trembling, her mirror-bright eyes wide with fear. But when she looked at Harris, she did not scream. She just held on to him and buried her face in his shoulder. "Everyone on board," Harris ordered. "We are leaving." The Horizon's Edge lifted off just as the first Krath reinforcements arrived at the plaza. They fired at the rising ship, but it was too late. The vessel climbed through the smoke and vanished into the clouds docked below. The Krath commander stood in the empty plaza and stared at the sky. His forces had been humiliated by a handful of aliens. He had lost 12 soldiers to enemies who fought like ghosts. He activated his communicator and contacted the fleet. "Send more ships," he said, his voice cold with rage. "Find them. Destroy them. I want those humans dead." Above the planet, Commander Harris set a course for the mountains. They had saved over 200 Volari, but he knew this was not over. The Krath were coming, and they were angry. The Horizon's Edge hid in a deep canyon in the northern mountains, its hull pressed against the rock walls. Above them, 5 Krath warships circled the planet like hungry predators, searching for the ship that had dared to challenge them. Inside the vessel, chaos had become routine. Dr. Park had not slept in 2 days. The medical bay was full, and the overflow filled the hallways and cargo holds. Over 200 Volari refugees sat or lay wherever they could find space. Some were wounded. All were afraid. Park moved among them with quiet efficiency, treating injuries, offering comfort, doing what he could with the limited supplies they had left. Commander Harris found him in the corridor, injecting medicine into a Volari child's arm. "How are we doing?" Harris asked. Park finished the injection before answering. "We are running low on everything. Bandages, painkillers, antibiotics. I can keep them stable for another day, maybe 2. After that," he shook his head, "we need to get these people somewhere safe." Harris nodded. He knew the situation. He also knew there was nowhere safe to go. Lieutenant Grant's voice came over the intercom. "Commander, Elder Soneth is asking to speak with you." Harris found the Volari elder in the observation lounge, staring out the window at the stars. The old alien turned as Harris entered, his mirror-bright eyes filled with questions. "Commander," Soneth said, "I must know something. Why did you come?" Harris sat down across from him. "I told you. We received your distress signal." "Yes, but many others received it too. The Tyranny, the merchant ships, the Galactic Council itself. They all heard us crying for help, and they all chose to look away." Soneth leaned forward. "You did not. Why?" Harris was silent for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "I spent a long time in the military," he finally said. "I saw many terrible things. Colonies destroyed. Refugees turned away. People dying because no one would help them. I always told myself there was nothing I could do. I was just one person, following orders." He looked at Soneth. "But that was a lie I told myself so I could sleep at night. There is always something you can do. Even if it is small, even if it is hopeless. You can try." Soneth considered this. "And if you die trying? Then at least I die knowing I did the right thing." The elder was quiet for a long time. Finally, he reached out and placed his hand on Harris's arm. "The universe needs more beings like you, Commander. Whatever happens, know that the Volari will never forget what you have done." Their conversation was interrupted by Amy Chun bursting through the door. "Commander, I have an idea," she said. "It is crazy, and it probably will not work, but it is the only chance we have." They gathered in the bridge to hear her plan. "The Krath have jammed our long-range communications," Chun explained. "We cannot send a distress signal beyond the system. But the Volari have a central power station in the capital city. It was designed to send energy beams to orbital platforms, but with some modifications, we could use it as a transmitter. A transmitter for what? Grant asked. Everything. Chun pulled up a display showing recordings from their arrival. We have footage of the destruction, the bodies, the craft rounding up survivors. We also have footage of our rescue operations. She looked at Harris. If we can boost a signal using that power station, we can broadcast all of it. Not just to human space, but to the entire galactic network. Everyone will see what the craft had done here. And everyone will see what we did, Cole added. A single human ship coming to help when no one else would. Harris studied the plan. The power station is in the middle of the city. Craft territory. We would have to send a team back in. Yes, Chun admitted. And once we activate the transmitter, the craft will know exactly where we are. They will come for us with everything they have. It is a death sentence, Grant said quietly. Maybe, Harris replied. But right now, the galaxy does not know what is happening here. The council declared this an internal matter and moved on. People are dying, and no one cares because no one is watching. He looked at each member of his crew. If we do this, we force them to watch. We make them see. And maybe, just maybe, someone will decide that what they are seeing is wrong. The room fell silent. It was Cole who spoke first. I will lead the ground team. I will go with him, Chun said. Someone needs to operate the transmitter. One by one, volunteers stepped forward. In the end, Harris had to turn people away. That night, a small team slipped out of the canyon and made their way back toward the burning city. They moved through the darkness, avoiding craft patrols, using the mountains and forests for cover. Cole led them, his instincts honed by years of training and 2 days of fighting. They reached the power station before dawn. Chen worked quickly, rewiring systems and connecting their recording devices to the main transmitter. Cole's soldiers watched the perimeter, their weapons ready. It is done, Chun finally announced. The signal will reach every corner of the galaxy. They will all see. Cole nodded. Do it. Chun activated the transmitter. The broadcast went out like a wave. Images of crystal cities reduced to rubble. Bodies in the streets. Craft soldiers dragging screaming Valari into transport ships. And then, different images. Humans carrying wounded aliens to safety. Dr. Park treating children. Sergeant Cole standing between a Valari girl and a craft soldier. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched Dot in the council chambers. Representatives stopped arguing and stared at their screens. On a dozen worlds, people saw what was happening and felt something stir in their hearts. The comfortable silence that had allowed the craft to do as they pleased was shattered. The signal ended. And then the craft fleet moved. 8 warships converged on the horizon's edge, their weapons charging. Their crews hungry for revenge. The humans had shown the galaxy the truth. Now they would pay the price. The horizon's edge rose from the canyon like a wounded bird, its engines straining against gravity. Commander Harris sat in his chair, watching the tactical display fill with red markers. 8 craft warships were closing in, their weapons locked onto his vessel. Time to intercept? He asked. 4 minutes, Lieutenant Grant replied. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly on the controls. Commander, we cannot outrun them. We cannot outfight them. What do we do? Harris looked around the bridge at his crew. They had followed him into an impossible situation. They had saved hundreds of lives. They had shown the galaxy the truth. And now they were going to die for it. We keep them busy as long as we can, he said. Every second we survive is another second for someone to respond to that broadcast. Elder Soneth appeared on the bridge. He moved slowly, his old body tired from the days of running and hiding. But his eyes were clear. Commander, he said, Let me speak to the Krath. I will offer them the surrender of the Valari people in exchange for your freedom. You have done enough. You do not need to die for us." Harris shook his head. "No. Commander." I said no. Harris stood and faced the elder. "We did not come here to make deals. We came here to save your people. All of your people. If we hand you over to the Krath, everything we did means nothing." Sanath stared at him for a long moment. Then he bowed his head. Then we faced the end together. The first Krath ship fired. The horizon's edge shook as energy beams struck its shields. Warning lights flashed across every console. Harris gripped his chair and gave his orders. "Grant, take us toward the asteroid field. Chun, give me everything the engines have. Cole, get your team ready for boarding actions." The ship lurched forward, diving toward a cluster of asteroids near the planet's rings. Grant wove between the massive rocks with skill born of desperation. The Krath followed, their larger vessels struggling to match the human ship's movements. "They are spreading out," Grant reported. "Trying to surround us. Let them." Harris studied the tactical display. "If we can get behind their command ship, we can—" He never finished the sentence. A Krath beam struck the hull directly, and the ship spun wildly. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. The lights flickered. "Hull breach on deck 3, Chen shouted. "Shields are down to 20%. Another hit. The ship groaned like a wounded animal. "Shields at 10%. One more hit, and we are done." Harris closed his eyes. He had tried. They had all tried. But sometimes trying was not enough. "Commander." Grant's voice was strange. "I am detecting new contacts." Harris opened his eyes and looked at the display. At first, he did not understand what he was seeing. Then his heart began to race. Ships were dropping out of hyperspace. Not one or two, but dozens. They poured into the system like a flood. Their formation precise and purposeful. 12 of them were human. "This is Admiral Ryan Foster of the battleship Enduring Spirit to all vessels." A voice boomed over the communications channel. "We received your broadcast. We are here to help." Harris could not speak. He could barely breathe. But the human ships were not alone. Behind them came vessels of every shape and size. Tarani cruisers. Merchant ships armed with makeshift weapons. Even a council patrol vessel, its crew having apparently decided to ignore their orders. 6 different species. All of them responding to a signal sent by a single human ship. "The broadcast," Sanath whispered. "They saw it. They came." The Krath commander realized what was happening and began to panic. "All ships retreat." "Fall back to." He never finished. The human fleet moved with terrible efficiency, cutting off escape routes and surrounding the Krath vessels. Admiral Foster's voice returned, cold and final. "Krath forces, you are outnumbered and outgunned. You will power down your weapons and surrender immediately. Any attempt to resist will be met with overwhelming force." For a long moment, nothing happened. The galaxy held its breath. Then, one by one, the Krath ships powered down their weapons. The battle was over before it began. In the hours that followed, the human fleet secured the system and began rescue operations. Medical ships landed on Valari Prime, treating the wounded and providing supplies. Search teams fanned out through the ruins, finding survivors in basements and tunnels. The Krath soldiers were disarmed and confined to their ships, awaiting transport to face justice. Commander Harris stood on the surface of Valari Prime, watching the rescue efforts. The smoke was beginning to clear. Sunlight broke through the clouds and touched the broken crystal towers, creating faint rainbows in the dust. Elder Sanath approached him, accompanied by a small figure. It was Mirith, the young Valari girl Cole had carried from the rubble. She held something in her hands. "Commander," Sanath said. The Valari have nothing to offer you that could match what you have done. Our cities are gone. Our wealth is dust. But we wish to give you this." Mirith stepped forward and held out her hands. In them was a small crystal, no bigger than Harris's thumb. It glowed softly with inner light, pulsing like a heartbeat. "It is called a memory stone," Soneth explained. "We give them to those we wish never to forget. As long as the Valari exist, we will remember you. We will remember all of you." Harris knelt down to look at Mirith. Her mirror-bright eyes were no longer filled with fear. She was still too young to fully understand what had happened, but she knew she was safe. She knew someone had come when no one else would. "Thank you," Harris said softly. He took the crystal and held it carefully. "I will keep it always." As he stood, Admiral Foster approached. "Commander Harris," Foster said, "I have been receiving communications from across the galaxy. The Council is furious that we violated their neutrality declaration. But they are also flooded with demands from their own citizens to take action against the Krath. Seems like people do not like watching genocide happen live on their screens." Harris smiled tiredly. "What happens now? Now?" Foster looked at the broken city around them. "Now we help these people rebuild. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy starts to understand that some things are worth fighting for." From across the ruins, a sound began to rise. It started soft, almost like wind. Then it grew stronger, fuller, more beautiful. The Valari were singing. It was a song of loss and grief, but also of hope and gratitude. It filled the air and rose toward the sky, a melody that spoke of darkness faced and light found. Harris listened, the memory stone warm in his hand. He had come to this world expecting to die. Instead, he had helped start something new. A moment when someone had cried for help and someone else had answered. A moment that reminded the galaxy that courage was not about winning. It was about trying. Above them, human ships hung in orbit next to vessels from a dozen species. Below them, survivors emerged from the ruins to face a new day. From the smoke, humanity had risen. And the galaxy would never see them the same way again.